Good morning. My name is Jeremy Ron. I'm the Public Information Officer on Incident Management Team 2, assigned to the LNU Lightning Complex. And I'd like to begin with a couple updates this morning regarding some important points regarding our statewide activity. As we have been engaged in these wildfires, we have delivered over 3.3 million gallons of retardant through our aircraft program, as well as 4.6 million gallons of water. So just to give you an idea of what kind of resources we've been doing. Additionally, through our partnership with the California National Guard, we now have statewide 1,300 service members that are assisting us. One of the things I wanted to mention real briefly as a tool that you can always use to be prepared in advance of a wildfire, as well as those of you that are returning home after a wildfire, is please go to readyforwildfire.org. We have these informational sheets that are a really good tool to make yourself prepared, as well as after returning a wildfire. Here specifically on the LNU Lightning Complex, beginning tomorrow, we will be having a second community public information location set up over in Santa Rosa at the Sonoma Base Camp over on Bennett Valley Road, in addition to the information trailer that we have here at the Calistoga Base Camp on Oak Street. Those will be open each day from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the community to come, speak with a firefighter, and get specific information as we can relay it. Again, for this incident, just want to reiterate, 24 hours a day if you need information, please call 707-967-4207. Now with an operational update, I'd like to invite up Chief Waters.
So good morning, everybody. Chris Waters, Operations Section Chief on the LNU Lightning Complex with the August 27th operational update. First of all, it's a little orientation. Fire is broken into two major geographic zones. We have the west zone, which is the Pacific Ocean to Sonoma County line. And then we have the east zone, which is from the Sonoma-Napa County line, basically to Interstate 5. First fire we'll talk about is Myers Fire. Myers Fire is pretty well contained. Repopulation has taken place, and the highway has been reopened. Walbridge Fire. Walbridge Fire is in a really tough location north and west of Guerneville. Heavy redwood fuels, steep country, just a tough place to access, and lots of structures. We have dozers, hand crews, and Type 3 engines in there right now trying to connect the dots. And yesterday was a very good day with the weather. This morning we had a pretty good marine layer. We kind of expect today to be a very good day too as well, and hope to make significant progress today. Moving over to the Hennessy Fire, we'll go up to right now, which is our highest priority, which is the area up around McGuire's. That's the area just south and east of Middletown. Our highest priority operation is a firing operation in this location. Key to getting this fire taken care of is getting a very short, very difficult piece of line fired, and they're working on that right now and trying to make progress. Yesterday was a good day as well. As you saw yesterday, there was a pretty good air show in support of today's firing operation, and they'll continue throughout the day. Moving north, the fire yesterday at the area where Cache Creek enters Capay Valley. Fire actually crossed Highway 16 and it made a run up the hill and started to head north. It's actually pretty well established on the plateau above Highway 16, and right now we're currently developing a plan and moving a few resources in there right now to contain that. As you move down the east side of the fire from Capay Valley down to Winters, that area is in mop-up and patrol. From Winters down to Solano County, there's still some repopulation and some safing operations going on in the Pleasance Valley area, and we plan to try to get that place opened up in the next 24 to 48 hours. Excuse me. Then from down in Fairfield up to basically we're 128. We're currently completing our repopulation operations on the area outside the fire, and then continue to make progress in getting some of the roads and subdivisions opened up so citizens can return to areas that are within the fire. And then moving back up to where our first priority is in this area that's above Angwin and Deer Park. We're currently looking at trying to get Deer Park repopulated and get the hospital repopulated, and then in the next couple of days we'll start to see Angwin and other areas close by also repopulated. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now we'd like to invite up a couple of our law enforcement partners, Under Sheriff John Crawford, as well as Assistant Sheriff Jim Noggle.
Good morning. My name is John Crawford. I'm the Napa County Under Sheriff, and with me is Assistant Sheriff of the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, Jim Noggle. Just a few quick points to make about repopulation operations and how things work, but I thought I might change things up a little bit and just start with a story. So during the last few days, I, as well as everybody else probably on this stage, have been driving around and getting our eyes on what's been going on in our various areas of responsibility. And of course, stopping and talk to people and see how they're doing and checking in with them. So one such person that I spoke with recently, he's been living on a landowner. He's been living on this property. His family's been there for about 3 generations, so maybe 80 or 90 years. And he's in an area that didn't get too heavily impacted. It was under an evacuation order, and of course he's seen fire before. But I touched base with him again shortly after the orders were changed in his area, and just to congratulate him for making it through. And he said to me, you know, John, that's great, and we really appreciate it, but it's not over for us. And I said, what do you mean? So he explained to me back in 2017 during the wildfires, the fires were much heavier around his property. And now again, this is someone that's lived there for 90 years. And he said once the evacuation orders were lifted, he had so many people coming onto his property that he had to install a gate across his driveway. He'd never had to do that for 90 years. Nobody in his family had ever done that. But people were so interested in seeing the fire or the fire damage that they intruded into his process of trying to cope with what he had lost during that period. And so I just want to take a second to remind everyone that this is not really a time for disaster tourism. As we open up these areas that have been evacuated, please remember that there's been homes lost. There's people that have lost everything other than what they've been able to carry with them. And unfortunately, in a few places, there's been lives lost as well. So we would ask that you remember that if you have this desire to just sort of see what happened, that maybe this is a time to respect those people who have lost and are suffering and grieving the losses of their property or their family, and allow them that space. So with that said, to the nuts and bolts of what I wanted to talk about today. As you all know, there's been several evacuation orders in place, and the purpose of an evacuation order is fairly obvious. There's an immediate threat to life or property, and so we ask you to leave for your own safety and to allow the firefighters to do their job. As we start to repopulate, that can happen a couple different ways. They can lift the orders altogether, in which case the area is completely free to traffic and travel, or they can impose, or can be imposed, an evacuation warning. Now, the difference between a warning and an order is in an order, things are imminent and you're under a direct threat. In a warning situation, that does allow people to return home or conduct their business, but they are required to be on standby to be able to leave at any time. So we've noticed there's been some confusion with the issuance of warnings. And just understand that's actually, in cases where there's been an order before, the warning is actually kind of a good thing. Understand also, please, that we want nothing more for people to be able to return home. We understand that it's frustrating to see certain areas open, and maybe the area where you live is not open. And we ask for your patience and continued cooperation as the decisions are made on what areas are open and which ones are not. Understand too, please, there are reasons for these differences. There's fire analysis, infrastructure damage that has to be looked at, the ability of ingress and egress, and obviously we don't want to repopulate people and then have to ask them to leave again. So these are all things we think about. Know too that it can be frustrating to look at an area where you live, particularly if it's a mountainous area, and not see active flames or smoke and not understand why it is that we haven't lifted those orders in those areas yet. And I would just like to take a second to remind you, I'm sure if you've ever been on a hike or something similar to that nature, and you're walking up a hill and you get to that ridge, and you think that ridge is the last ridge you're going to come to, and then you find 2 more behind it, or 3 more, or whatever it is. So that same thing can happen when you're looking up at a mountain from a valley floor, and you don't necessarily see flames. You might see some smoke, and you don't understand the importance of keeping that area closed. And what I would just remind you is that you can't always see the fire activity from a lower elevation that's occurring at a higher elevation. So please keep that in mind. And again, we really appreciate your continued patience and cooperation in that area. Some things to think about when you return to a repopulated area. Just keep in mind, in areas that are impacted directly by fire, there's still going to be hazards even though it's open. There may be trees that are weakened, there may be power lines that need to be repaired, guardrails, other infrastructure, and we just need you to make sure that you stay careful and take care of yourselves. Additionally, you're going to find an increased presence of utility workers. There still may be fire engines moving in and out. You'll see in some of the areas, I'm sure in your communities, that there are many workers from, like I said, the utilities, local road crews, all working very hard to repair the damage that's been done so that those areas can be safely occupied. And it creates increased traffic on the roadways. We would ask that you don't stop at the sides of the roads or block lanes of travel just in order to take pictures. Again, avoid the desire to be a disaster tourist, if you will. So with that in mind, I'll turn it back over to the fire operations, and I would just ask that you all be safe, take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to our unit chief, Chief Jones, for an update.
Good morning, and thank you very much for tuning in today. As you've heard, this is a very dynamic incident, and it's a lot of acreage, a lot of area, 6 counties. There's a lot of things going on, and while we're making good progress in some areas, we still are actively fighting fire and trying to control it in others. As you've just heard, and thank you very much for that explanation. I think that hopefully all of you that are listening in really take heed to that information. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I really do appreciate your patience as we get through this. While I want to share some perspective a little bit. So while first responders continue to battle the fires here in the LNU complex, new fires continue to be reported daily, locally, and throughout the state. I've shared statistics with you before. I think it's important for you to understand as your patience grows thin. Since August 15th, 700 new fires have been reported throughout the state. 46 new starts just yesterday. To date, more than 1.6 million acres have burned since August 15th of this year. Last year, this same time, just a little over 55,000 acres. That's a very big difference. While there still may be smoke in the air in some areas, and you woke up this morning and maybe your area was clear, it's important for you to have a plan, to be prepared, and as I've said here every day, you need to be ready. We have probably another few more months of peak wildland fire season. And so it's your duty, it's your responsibility to be prepared, so to help us help you. So when there's an emergency, you need to leave when we ask. But you need to also prepare your home to be ready. You need to have a plan to be ready to go. So I ask you to go to readyforwildfire.org. Take a look at that. It was explained to you earlier as we started this press conference that there's some information in there for not only to prepare, but also to return. Also, it's important that you get information that is current and correct. I ask again that you please tune in to fire or go to fire.ca.gov to your local county for the official information as we repopulate and potentially have to add new evacuations on areas of the fire. Up-to-date information is going to be there. It's not anywhere else. And lastly, I want to say thank you to all of the cooperators that we have. We got more resources in. We still continue to get more resources in from other incidents that are winding down, and they're coming here. We also have resources coming in from out of state, and they continue to work hard for us to put these fires out. The unsung heroes, the folks at our EOCs, the ones that are supporting our evacuees, all of the folks that are supporting us to make sure that all of the things are getting here on time to support you logistically. Please say thank you when you have an opportunity. It's not just the first responders on the front lines, it's all the folks that work hard in the back. So please have a very safe day and tune in to us for more information as things come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now I'd like to invite up our Incident Commander, Chief Cavanaugh, and as he wraps up, we'll take a couple questions if there are. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for joining us once again on, I believe it's day number 10 for us on the LNU Lightning Complex. This morning, the entire complex is sitting at 368,868 acres with 33% containment this morning. The Hennessy fire is at 311,222 acres alone at 33% containment. The Walbridge fire is 55,353 acres at 19% containment, and the Myers fire is still continuing to stay at 97% containment. So we're looking good over on the Myers fires as we continue every day over there. As far as our resources that we have, we continue to get resources moving into the incident for us to help on our operational strategy and tactics that we're doing out on the line. Today we're sitting with 292 fire engines, 68 water tenders, 13 helicopters, 24 hand crews, and 68 dozers for a total personnel of 2,292 personnel. Operationally, coming in today, yesterday, and I talked about the last few days, we were having members from the California National Guard, service members came into the incident. We have them sent up over in Santa Rosa. They are currently out on the fire line today and on the Walbridge fire. We have 12 crews, and they're roughly 16 personnel per crew that we have on the Walbridge fire. So that is good relief for us, and we're going to be utilizing those National Guards crews the best we can. So we're happy to have them over there. As Chief Waters said, we're making good progress in certain areas around the entire complex. It's, like I said, it's a large incident. Yesterday, though, we do have a spot off of Highway 16 to where the fire got out on us and went across Highway 16 and is burning to the north. We do have a plan set up in place operationally over there. That is a very tough section of Highway 16 up there out of Ramsey. There's been multiple fire history up there. We do have those plans in place to corral the fire out there. It's probably going to make a little bit of a run over there on us, but we do have plans in place. There's, like I said in the past, there's been multiple fires that we have those operational plans that we can use and utilize, and we have folks that have done that over there. But it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for us over the next few days, but I know we'll be successful there as well. Overall, the entire incident every day is, and I talked about the briefing this morning, it's picking a battle, and at this point, we're trying to win a battle every single day around the entire complex. It is, I keep saying, and I flew it again yesterday over on this side on the east zone, just a portion of it, just one of the branches, and it took about 40 minutes just to fly one of the branches. That's not all the way around the fire. You'd have to stop and get fuel to make that trip around the entire incident. Extremely large, and but we're winning a battle every day, and that's the goal right now. Thank you, Undersheriff, for talking about repopulation. Today, we're hopefully going to have some more repopulations that are going to be taking place in different areas along both the east and the west zone, hopefully, and then also, but we're looking at possible, depends on what happened to the north, of, there could be more orders along Clusive if it gets up and runs over there. So still very dynamic as we've seen over the last 10 days for us as we keep battling this thing. But it's important to get people back in their homes, and hopefully this afternoon we're going to have some areas that are going to be identified that we will be able to accomplish that today. With that, is there any questions? Yes, sir.
What areas you've identified that people possibly may be able to go back this afternoon?
So what we're looking at this morning is there's some areas, and we'll get that out here a little bit later, and it's we're looking at hopefully here in the next 24 hours, if we can't do it today, but here in the next 24 hours, we have some areas down here south of Deer Park, the hospital area. We're trying to look at that so we can get that reopened. We do have a staff that we've allowed back in that area over the last few days to make sure the hospital's up and ready to operate. So we're looking at that area up in there, and then we're looking at some areas up in the Lake County area as well where the impact's not going to be. As Chief Lawler said, the priorities right now, we've been doing this, the priorities we have to identify is really around some of the communities and making sure that we have the resources to get those people back in. So we're getting those identified every day. We'll look out, try to get those out, and every single day we're going to continue to do that. Down in Solano County starting today, we have about a 72-hour plan that is in place working with Solano County to start implementing people back in their homes over a 72-hour period down there as well. So hopefully we'll be getting that out this afternoon. Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now we want to make sure and reach out to our entire audience, and now we have a Spanish update with Sergeant Valencia. Thank you.
Buenos días, Sargento Juan Valencia, el portavoz del Departamento del Sheriff del Condado de Sonoma. Tengo información de los incendios. El Walbridge ha crecido a más de 55,000 acres con 19% contenido. El incendio Hennessy está a más de 300,000, 11 acres con 33% contenimiento. Todo se está moviendo despacio ahorita por el incendio, so tienen que tener mucha paciencia. Cal Fire continúa luchando el incendio para ganar la pelea. Los servicios públicos y las obras públicas continúan limpiando y haciendo la área segura para la comunidad, para que regresen para atrás a sus casas. Tenemos que también saber que tenemos muchos más bomberos llegando en la área. Tenemos más de 2,000 bomberos. Tenemos bomberos de la Guardia Nacional que también llegaron ayer y van a empezar a trabajar en la área del Walbridge para contener el incendio. La cosa es que lo que está pasando ahorita también, lo que estamos mirando, personas están yendo a las áreas donde está el incendio o las áreas que se han quemado y están tomando fotos. La cosa es que tenemos que tener paciencia, tenemos que respetar a las personas que a lo mejor no tienen casas o que perdieron cosas. No queremos turismo en las áreas donde está el incendio o donde pegó el incendio. Les quiero dar muchas gracias a la comunidad que estamos trabajando con ustedes y por la paciencia. Sabemos que quieren regresar a la casa. Estamos trabajando juntos con Cal Fire para que regresen lo más pronto. Pero la cosa es que la seguridad de ustedes es primero. Queremos que regresen a la casa, pero queremos que estén bien allí cuando regresen. Cuídense y gracias.
Thank you. This will conclude today's update, and we will have another one tomorrow at 11 a.m. And please have a safe day. Thank you.